there is acquired tastes, and that's part of learning. But I go back to what I said a couple of episodes ago, was trust your tongue. I don't care how educated in the way of food you think you are or are not, your tongue will not lie to you.
On June 9 and 10 this year, our live online workshop, Biochar for Farming, is happening in English and Spanish with returning specialist professors Angela Barrero and Morillo Bettarello. Tickets are $10 for farmers and $100 for everybody else, which includes 9 pay-it-forward tickets for farmers who can't pay the ticket price. Head to mapperforward.coffee/workshops or check the show notes for links. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 4 of an awesome 5-part series with Mark Bartlett from Bon Accord Products, based in New Zealand, but a global brand that occupies like the specialty product of the kinds of things that you would enjoy in cafes and the ingredients that would be used in kitchens. We are talking about the bastardization of quality in cafes and restaurants. We have run the gambit of a lot of the conversation around quality, but something that I am very curious about your perspective on, Mark, is what we're going to talk about in this episode, which is quality subjective? And the reason I want to talk about this is because I feel like there's a lot of people in many different industries, whether it's the coffee industry, it's the burger industry, it's all the different industries within hospitality and F&B, that talk about this is what quality is. You should be aiming for an 80 plus coffee because that's when it's specialty coffee. You shouldn't be having coffees that have like fermented anything in them because that funky flavor is not enjoyed. You shouldn't be drinking acidic coffees because, you should be drinking acidic coffees because that demonstrates flavor. If you come to the Middle East, particularly in the GCC, nobody here likes acidic coffees. It's not something that's drunk. So now are we saying that people here don't know what quality is if we decide that they don't like acidic coffee? So these are the kind of things that plague my thinking when it comes to conversations that people have about quality. In your mind, is quality subjective, or are there people that know better than other people?
Firstly, can you give me your personal definition of subjective?
For me, when subjective is your opinion, like there's no actual hard facts, scientific facts that demonstrate, for example, a good quality chocolate has no cadmium in it. It has this many parts per million of all these different kinds of nutrition, and that is an objective way of looking at quality coffee, right? Quality chocolate. Subjective is when somebody tastes it and says, this is a really good quality coffee. A chocolate, sorry. Yep. Everything's coffee for me. And subjective by like what your standards are.
Yep. I think it's
tell me.
You've obviously heard the term acquired taste.
Yeah.
And I know this is probably the wrong region of the world to be talking about it, but I go to wine. It's a good example of that.
Uh-huh.
Now, I remember as a 18-year-old, we weren't allowed to drink 18 in those days, but I remember discovering Liefering, and Black Tower, and I thought, this is amazing. This is the best wine I've ever tasted in my life. Or Asti.
It's better than box wine.
Well, we had no box wines back then.
Right.
Everything came out of a bottle and a cork. In Australia, one of the biggest wines sold for many, many years in the 70s particularly was Poultry Pool. And it was huge. Or I learned something not so long ago that one of the biggest selling wines in the world used to be in the 1960s and 70s was Matou's Rosé. Where's that now?
Wow.
Nowhere. Yes. But that was that but so there is acquired tastes, and that's part of learning. But I go back to what I said a couple of episodes ago, was trust your tongue. I don't care how educated in the way of food you think you are or are not, your tongue will not lie to you. And
Right.
now, if you don't like something, then ask yourself the question: why am I not enjoying this? Am I not enjoying it because it's something different? Is it something that I could learn more about and then understand why this should be enjoyable to me? I'm not saying it's because it's good and you should enjoy it. Does it work? Oh, a very good example. Two examples for that is oysters and blue cheese.
Yeah.
Now, Regenerative, for God's sake, and for a long time, the only thing I thought was a decent oyster was to fry, or to make oysters called Patrick or Mornay or something. Eat a raw oyster. Oh no, some awful terms used for it. Wouldn't consider it. Then one time I was in Sydney, in Brisbane, Gold Coast. One of my best friends in Japan, Chikusan, best tongue in the world in taste and understanding, just
palate.
Incredible. Japan, they always talk about tongue. They don't use the word.
Oh, okay.
That's why I use the
okay.
And we went to this specialty oyster restaurant that apparently had the best oysters in Australia. And Chika-san said, "Oh, when all the oysters," I said, "Oh no, I'll have some cooked oysters." I said, "Why?" And it said, "I don't like raw oysters." And he looked at me and he said, "Mark, son, you're supposed to know what you're talking about. What are you doing? You are going to eat one of these oysters, and I will talk you through what you should understand." And he did. And he talked about the overall texture, the freshness. If there's something about it that's not right, it's usually wrong. Don't eat it. And all of a sudden, a penny dropped, just like that. And from there onwards, love affair with oysters went. So I went 30 years of my life supposed to know what I'm talking about in food, not eating, wouldn't consider eating a raw oyster. Very similar thing happened with cheese. And I had lucky enough to have met Michel Barrat, and he was the man who developed or invented nouveau cuisine. And in his cookbook, he gifted me a cookbook, and in the cookbook was this Stilton cheese pate. And I took it back to the restaurant, and long story short, one of the chefs said, "I want to make it up." "Oh, you can make it up." That's fine. I didn't like blue cheese. How crazy is that? I'm sort of 25 years old and I don't like blue cheese. And then finally the chef, he was a junior chef, he said, "Oh, this is amazing." Some of the other chefs go, "Oh, it's amazing." I'm thinking, okay. And I went, wow. So what the recipe had done was he took away the thing of having to take a piece of blue cheese off and confront that. It was down another step. And that became an acquired taste. Am I a better person for that? Am I a smarter person for all that? No. I just, at some point, you could say the same for peanut butter. Maybe you've got a chance here. It was just that acquired.
Correct.
So in the end, no, I don't. For some people, it's subjective. For others, I don't think so. But again, just coming down to trust your tongue. And especially coffee is a very good example. It took me a long time to enjoy V60s, but what I say a long time, it took me a while. I kept thinking, hang on, wait a minute, what am I looking for here? And so then I was prepared to study it and learn. And now my morning always starts off with a V60 and the boys or the girls at Royal choose whatever bean it is, and I get it delivered. And I just love it. So I hope that answers your question to a degree.
Well, it leads me to this idea of, like, if I dig deeper into what you're saying, is this idea that quality and what each of us define as quality is correlated to our lived experience and our education about what we've been exposed to.
Yes.
So we can say that we're connoisseurs in grilled cheese if we have been eating grilled cheese all of our lives, but if we haven't had a grilled cheese that has been made with the best quality or for whatever it's worth, And the reason I use grilled cheese is because there are people that will say the best grilled cheese is on the shittiest white bread with the most simple of cheeses had with the tomato soup, right? But you could go and make a grilled cheese with an amazing Gruyere and a little bit of blue cheese put into it, grilled.
Absolutely.
On a delicious sourdough with the best pepicea butter on the outside, grilled in a pan and just had on its own with a little bit of Maldon salt. And now you have taken a grilled cheese to an incredibly new level. And the only difference there is that you have had the opportunity to be exposed to a different, very simple thing that is of a different perceived quality, but your exposure to that means that you are now at least being open to the idea that your best grilled cheese on shitty white bread and really cheap cheddar cheese is different now.
Yeah. I mean, say in New Zealand, I don't know whether you've heard of the Southern cheese roll.
No, tell me.
It's an institution. You know, it's shitty cheese. Well, maybe not too shitty, but
average shitty.
Average cheese on white bread and fried or baked or whatever it is. I don't even know. I've tried it once and thought, yeah. But there are people that it features in adverts and in all sorts of things. But that to me is catering to the lower denominator of
right.
Of you don't really have to think about something so long as it's not offensive and it's trendy or it's or you should enjoy it, then people do. But I agree.
Talk to me about pizza.
Yep, it's a very good. Yep.
Talk to me about pizza with regards to what you were just saying, right? Pizza is another one of those things that crosses the gambit.
Yep.
We have the shittiest of shitty pizza, in my opinion, that's filled with, and we go back to ingredients. It's filled with, hydrogenated oils. It's filled with, really processed products. Even the vegetables are highly processed that go on there. And then on the other side of things, you've got pizza that's made with the base minimum of ingredients, high quality or high grade ingredients. And the simplicity of it is what makes it high quality.
Yeah, I agree. Good pizza starts with a good base, no matter what. But I think minimalism in pizza is the way to go. As far as the topping is concerned, anything more than 3 things, maybe 4 if you want to be a bit indulgent. But where you get a pizza where you've got 500 different ingredients on the top and nobody knows, that's an Americanized version, and it's certainly crept into Australia and New Zealand, that's for sure. But I remember, my first experience of what a good pizza was before I'd been to Italy. It was in Japan.
No.
Yeah, and in a used to be slightly seedy area called Rapoint. And this guy set up this pizza place. And I looked at it. When I first looked at it, I thought, there's nothing on it. Because it's little, sort of his version tomato sauce base with, a couple of things on it. And I looked at it, tried it, and I went, wow, this is amazing. Just totally different sensation. So I wasn't a great pizza eater before that because I didn't like what the vast majority of pizza I'd see be happening in New Zealand or Australia. So great experience. Then of course later on you go to Italy and then you become you think you know what you're talking about. You're high and mighty about things you'll find some little street places doing something fabulous, or you might go into a restaurant that's slightly upend and they're not doing a great job. But eventually you learn that less is better for pizza, in my view. Base is the start. Absolutely, base is the start.
So if people want to have a different perspective on their own journey with regards to quality, like if you have a new chef that's starting at the, brand new into the kitchen, has really not spent their life eating very much else than convenience food.
Mhm.
How do you start them on the track of starting to figure out their journey around quality? Because I'm sure they're tasting things that they've never tasted before, experiencing things they've never experienced before. How do they decide what quality is?
Well, firstly, they need a mentor. So you need to have somebody within that kitchen that does have a passion for what they're doing, be that the owner
Mhm.
or employ somebody. One of the things that, well, not one of the things, but one of the many things that I look at when I walk into kitchens is that, by and large, a lot of product is all pre-made. It's all bought in.
Mm.
So Béarnaise and Hollandaise is another prime example. Why anybody buys in a Béarnaise or a Hollandaise sauce is,
Mm.
to me, just, I don't get it.
Lazy.
Well, a lot of it will say it's to make it as wasteful and bloody bloody, but it doesn't need to be. But boy, the what you deliver to the client, if you're making eggs Benedict or Florentine or whatever, and you've got a beautiful hollandaise on the top that's being made that morning, it's just delicious. Now the customer may not understand why they like it more, but what they don't probably even think about the hollandaise. Some will, but they all look at that dish and go, "Oh wow, that's absolutely delicious," because you've made a good hollandaise. You need to go into, I say to people, go into your kitchens and look at every single ingredient that you use in that kitchen. Read the backs of the packets and understand what it is. And then say to yourself, is this a good ingredient, a good quality ingredient? And if you don't understand whether it is or isn't, go and ask somebody. But by and large, most people will be able to tell. I love that you mentioned a molded salt. I mean, what a difference that makes to particularly certain dishes.
Any salad, any bread, anything.
Yeah, but people say, oh, it's salt. I've got friends of mine say, oh, you spend lots of money on mold. I'm sure it's a little expensive, but I don't use it in everything.
Yeah, it will transform a dish.
Yep.
Which is bizarre. It will transform a dish.
Yep.
If you're having something special, I put it on peanut butter sandwiches. Peanut butter on toast, a little bit of Maldon salt, chef's kiss.
Yep, it's incredible. And I've seen people try to match that. Well, we're just sticking from. I've seen various versions of it, but for some reason, they're never the same.
I don't know what the crack is in Maldon salt.
Neither do I.
I'm convinced there's a kind of crack that they put in it that can't be replicated, because I see other brands trying to create Maldon salt. I'm like, I understand why this shit is so expensive, but I don't understand what the actual ingredients are of this salt, because nobody else can make salt taste as good as this salt.
Absolutely.
Which goes to the heart of quality, right? That goes to the real heart of quality. Like, are they doing something different than all the other salt companies?
I suspect. There is still a lot of good salt around. So and Malden, they set the benchmark, and people aspire to that. So that you don't need to be drinking Shuttle Lafite every day. But where you've got people that aspire to that, and there's lots of fairly large operations that are aspiring and trying to do, then they do a good job. But when you want that special occasion, you want that something special, you say, well, I will have that glass of Shuttle Lafite. So that's really where I sit on that.
Yeah, nice. Okay, we've got one episode to go, and it's what are the forces that are eroding society's demand for quality produce and ingredients? And I suspect that the relationship between that and them being forced to is quite an interesting place for us to explore. So join us for the final episode of this series in the next episode, folks. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, friends. Please don't forget to show us some love by subscribing, liking, commenting, and most of all, sharing this podcast with your friends. Check the show notes for links, including our sponsors and our Patreon, and stay tuned for more great conversations on the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward.